Hi, Krista Mashore, Homes by Krista. I'm glad you took the time to watch this video. So note to self, next time before doing a video, make sure you get your nails done. I have 4 missing nails, so when I point at you, I'm so sorry. These are not the best looking fingers either. Anyways, so today's video is going to be helping realtors, lenders, sellers, and buyers. And the reason I'm doing this video is because there's a lot of changes that have been happening that we need to be aware of when we're doing real estate transactions to ensure a more successful close of escrow for both the seller, the buyer, and the realtor and the lender, because we all want a successful outcome. So let me just start by saying this. As a real estate agent and as a lender, right, we are problem solvers. There's a lot of things that you can do to be very proactive within the transaction, and that's what I want to go over right now, is how to be proactive so that problems don't arise that should have actually been taken care of in the beginning. So first, let's talk about the loan application. This is when you're getting a loan, you're going to be filling out a 1003. It's a 5-page loan application. And so whenever I get an offer in from a buyer on a listing that I'm selling, I always call the lender and the realtor and I say, hey, have you ran credit, verified employment, seen their taxes, looked at their bank statements, done your due diligence? And they always tell me, yes, we have. Inevitably, we see some problems arising, and here's the reason why, is because many times lenders are giving approval letters prior to actually reviewing the entire 1003 and having their buyer fill out the loan application completely. What do I mean by this? There's a declaration page on the loan application, and it asks you questions that are imperative that you answer correctly, because as a buyer, if you don't answer these questions correctly, it's going to end up causing problems for you, for your lender, for your realtor, for the buyer, and for the seller. So it's going to affect everyone in the transaction. Let me tell you some of the questions that they ask. So if you've ever had any kind of an outstanding judgment ever, you need to make sure you let your lender know about it prior to them giving you your full approval letter. So here's what happens in many cases. People are trying to improve their credit, so they hire companies to actually help them improve their credit score. Some of these companies are able to get foreclosures, judgments, liens, short sales, bankruptcies off of the credit report. This can be very dangerous because if it's not on the credit report and you have not filled out your 1003 loan application to its complete entirety or been completely honest and upfront with your lender, you're going to have issues and you're going to have problems getting your loan. So the questions it asks are, do you have any outstanding judgments against you? Okay, that's important to know. Have you ever declared bankruptcy in the past 7 years, or ever, if you've ever had a bankruptcy or a short sale, a deed in lieu of foreclosure? Your lender needs to know about that prior to them giving you your approval letter. I know we get excited as buyers and you want to go out and you want to buy a house, but guess what? The most important thing for you to do is to know that you're fully qualified and to make sure you're comfortable with the payment, to include the taxes and the insurance within your payment. Does that make sense? I know you're excited, you want to get the house really bad, but make sure that you're fully approved, because you don't want to waste your time, the realtor's time, and also the poor seller's time, right? They also want to know if you've ever been party to a lawsuit. Now, here's things that you need to make sure that you as a seller are making sure that your realtor knows and they're asking these questions and that the lender has asked these questions. If you have any child support, alimony, tax liens, all of those count as income against you, and even though it may not be on the credit report, you need to make sure that you let your lender know about that. And these are the questions that you want to make sure that you ask your realtor and you ask the lender, and they make sure that they're verifying and asking these questions so that issues don't arise during the transactions. Many times they don't find out about those kind of things until the very last moment, right? And how this is very dangerous for the buyer is that your contingencies could be removed and you're at risk of losing your deposit. It affects the seller and also the buyer because everyone's trying to move out and secure their new residences. What if you're all packed up and all of a sudden you find out the buyer has a tax lien or an IRS lien, or they're making IRS payments or child support payments or alimony payments that they didn't know about, that the lender didn't know about for some reason, and did not incorporate that into getting into what their payment was going to be. Your escrow is going to fall through. You're going to have a lot of unhappy parties. So make sure that those questions are answered and that they're asked from the lender. Make sense? If you have an additional mortgage loan, a secondary rental, a student loan, any kind of loan, home improvement loan, if there's any kind of lien or debt obligation, if you have a personal private money loan, if you've lent, if somebody has lent you money and you owe them money, that can count against you. If you've co-signed for somebody, that can count against you too, because that is money that you're saying that you're obligated to pay, and it can affect you getting your loan. So make sure you disclose all of this to your lender. And sellers and buyers, make sure you're asking these questions to your realtors, and they are making sure they're asking those questions when they find out if the buyers are truly qualified. It's going to save you time and a lot of stress, I can guarantee you on that. Now, other things to be made aware of. Now, cash to close. Whatever your closing disclosure says, it should match the estimate that your lender gave you to begin with. If you start seeing the numbers change, you'll need to know that that's most likely what you're going to need to come in with when you go to close escrow. Be sure if there's any discrepancies, you talk to your lender about it right away. Don't wait until you go in to sign loan documents, because if anything changes on your closing disclosure, everything has to be redisclosed. It needs to go back in through the bank, and again, it's going to cause delays and issues for you when closing and cause escrow not to close on time. Another thing that's really important to think about, when buyers and sellers are selling, when you're buying a house or you're selling a house, if the buyer wants repairs based upon the roof report, the termite report, the home inspection, if they want any repairs and those repairs are negotiated in the contract, and in the contract you say, okay, Mr. Seller, I want to have a $5,000 credit for the termite damage, or I would like you to fix the termite work. If a lender sees that in the contract, they are going to want to see those reports, and many times they are going to request that those items are actually fixed. So make sure you know that, because if your realtor or lender or seller and buyer, they're not aware of that, again, it can cause problems and delay, and it can even cause escrows not to close at all. Now, this is also very important, and this is very, very hard to actually detect and find this out, but it has caused some problems. For people that have had a short sale or a foreclosure, and many of us have, right? Our area was decreased 75%, so most people have unfortunately had to experience a short sale or foreclosure. There are certain time frames before you can purchase a new home. In many cases, the lenders have not actually, when the foreclosure happened on that date, or the short sale happened, the date, you're going to think that, oh, 4 years or 7 years later, you can actually buy your house. If the lender did not record the short sale or record the foreclosure on that date, it can actually cause problems, and they will not release the case number for you to be able to be fully approved until a different time. So if they waited 3 months or 6 months to actually record the short sale or the foreclosure, it can cause you problems when you're getting approved. And in many cases, they will not know this when they are actually getting you approved. They find out later on, all right? So it's a question, if you've had a short sale or foreclosure, make sure you tell your lender, have them see if they can research the exact date that the lender actually recorded the short sale or foreclosure, because that's the date that they're going to want to be able to loan you money. Now, there are ways around that. We've gotten around that. There are ways around that, but it takes time and it's not easy to do. Also, you need to think about this. All of your assets need to be verified. Any income that you say that you have, it needs to be verified. Cash is not verifiable. Anything that you're saying that you're making, they need to be able to account for it and see proof of it. And cash is very, very hard to prove. So make sure when you're telling your lender or your realtor what you're making, make sure that if it's cash, you let them know specifically that cash is a part of what you're saying your overall income is, because it will cause issues later on in the road within the closing. Now, everybody loves gifts, right? And we love gift money. Now, if you are getting gift money as a part of your down payment, that needs to be notated, and your lender needs to know about that, and it needs to be made aware up front, because you're going to need to get a gift letter from that person saying that this money is actually a gift and it's not going to have to be paid back. If your gift is really not a gift and you have to pay it back, it's considered a loan, which then goes against you when you're qualifying. So think about that and make sure you're full disclosure to your lender. Now, also, if you're using money from your 401k for your down payment, it takes time to get that money out of the 401k. It does not happen overnight. It could take several weeks. So make sure that if you're using 401k for your down payment, that you do it right away and you start that process. And also make sure you talk to your tax accountant and find out if that money is going to be taxable and how much it can be. It's a very, very hefty fine for the 401k money being used as a down payment as far as the tax penalty. So make sure you're aware of that as well. Okay, this is a big one. So 15 years ago when I got in the business, it was probably one of my first 5 transactions. I was so excited to close. I was like, yay, I'm gonna get paid. You know, this is over. And guess what happened? I didn't get paid. The house did not close. Do you wanna know why? The buyer went out and bought a car. Yes, they bought a car. You would think that people would know not to do that, however they didn't. And back then I was so inexperienced, I didn't know not to tell people not to buy anything. Do not open any credit lines. Do not open a credit card. Do not put furniture on hold and get a loan for your furniture. Do not pass go. Don't do any of it. The second that you go, you get approved. From that point, they've ran your credit, right? Don't think because they've ran your credit that you're safe and you can do what you want. You have got to make sure that you do not open any new credit lines or have any new loans until after you close escrow and have recorded on the property. Does everyone understand that? That definitely will cause you issues on getting your loan and issues to close. There's something called fraud guard. Right before the closing docs, when we're all excited and we're going to go to get signed, guess what happens? The lender will pull something called fraud guard. It's a fraud guard, and any new open lines of credits, loans, liens will all show up on that and will keep you from closing escrow, which is going to hurt you, it's going to hurt the seller, and it's not going to be good. So keep that in mind. Now let me ask you this question. If you had a house that was fully paid for and you didn't owe anything on it, wouldn't you think that'd be awesome and it would really actually help you qualify for a loan? Guess what? That can also count against you. Why? Because you have taxes and insurance. Again, additional debt. So make sure even if you have homes that you own outright, your lender knows about it so he can account for that when approving you. Again, all of these things that can come up if you don't disclose and make sure you really go over that. The 1003 and fill out that loan application to its full can affect you, it can affect the seller, and it can affect the realtor and the lender. Now, this is a question I get all the time. Krista, when we sign loan docs, do we get the keys? Or when I sign loan docs, is that when I get to, hand over the keys to the buyer? When you sign loan docs in California, you don't actually, that's not the day that you actually close escrow. The day that you close escrow is about 3 to 5 days typically after you sign the closing doc. So when you're signing your papers, you're all excited, that's great, but remember, it's not the day you officially hand over keys. The day that we actually hand over keys is the day that we record, which is not the day that we're signing the loan documents. That happens prior. Sellers, now if you have a homeowners association, the HOA documentation, the HOA docs are a part of the disclosures. In California, you legally have to disclose and give the HOA documents to the buyer. It takes usually around 10 to 12 days to get the HOA documents. So do not wait until after the buyers have done their inspections, because if you do not order those HOA documents right away, guess what happens? Any disclosure that you give to the buyer, right, after their contingency timeframes exceeds their time frame 5 additional days. So for example, if you give a disclosure of the HOA docs and the buyer's already removed their contingencies, by you giving that HOA disclosure, you've just opened up their contingency period for disclosures an additional 5 days. So order them right away. They take time, and also if the buyer's getting a loan, the lender needs to see the HOA docs and as a part of them getting the loan as well. So that's twofold. It's disclosure for the buyer and also disclosure for the lender. So order them right away, okay? And those HOA papers, just warn you, are expensive. The HOA docs are a lot of money. I don't know why they cost so much money, but they do. Another thing to think about is disclosure items. Sellers, anything that's ever been modified, repaired, added, fixed, or changed is the disclosure item. Do you know how many times I get disclosures and everything's checked no, right? Hey, have you ever had any alterations or modifications? If you've ever put in a ceiling fan, that's a modification. If you've ever had not a washer machine, because that doesn't count usually, but if you've ever had a water heater or garbage disposal and it's broken and you fixed it, even though it's been fixed, it's still been repaired or replaced and it needs to be disclosed. It's a disclosure item. One of the biggest disclosure items in lawsuits in California and actually across the United States is pet odor disclosures. If you've ever had a pet and your pet has peed anywhere, make sure you disclose it, because you might not smell it right away, but if that buyer comes back later on in the summertime or after you've cleaned the carpets and they start smelling a lot of cat or urine or whatever it might be, they can come back and sue you for a lot of money. So make sure anything that you think that would need to be disclosed, or even if you don't think it needs to be disclosed, disclose it. Train noise, street traffic, all of those things need to be disclosed and can cause problems for you later. So you want to get your house sold, save that money, keep it in your pocket, and not worry about lawsuits at a later time. One last thing. Close of escrow date, right? That's a target date. We are all going to try to close on time as much as we can. Unfortunately, once the realtors have, sold the house and we've done the negotiating and the contingencies have been removed, the close of escrow date really is in the hands of the lender, all right? So you need to make sure that you're in close communication with the lender and you do your best to know that it's a target date. Many times the date is extended and it's things that are completely beyond our control. And as frustrating as it is, because you need to move and you need to pack and you need to, get your moving van, we all understand that. A lot of times we cannot control that. But other than that, I think we've covered a lot today. There's a lot more to go over and we will later, but these are some of the main things. Oh, one more thing, forgot to tell you about. So just recently with the new election that's going on, if you have any type of visa at all, you need to make sure that your lender knows about the visa and that the visa is up to date and current, because that is starting to cause issues just now because of the new election. And one last thing that I did not touch on that's very important. Interest rates just rose about a point. If you were approved for a loan 2 weeks ago and the interest rates were 3.1 or 3.3, since they've raised so much, it can affect you on how much money you're able to qualify for now. So if you've previously been approved for a loan and it was last week even, you need to go back to your lender, talk to them about your numbers, find out what the new interest rate is and how that's going to affect your payment, because a percentage point increase in interest rates is a huge difference in your mortgage payment and can affect how much you can qualify for. Does that make sense? So I hope all this helped you. Do me a favor, if you are thinking of buying or selling a house, make sure you forward this to your realtor, make sure you forward this to your lender, and make sure you as buyers and sellers watch this to its entirety, because it's going to help save you time, energy, and stress, so you have a nice stress-free transaction, okay? So thanks so much for watching, and make sure you forward it, and have a great day, and do me a favor, anything you want to learn about real estate related, ask me, I'm here to help. Have a good day.